It was a February night. Up in the mountains of Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, the cold had gone past uncomfortable. It was the kind of cold that didn't just freeze your body, it crawled into your soul. The cabin sat high on the mountain, and from a distance it looked beautiful. But once night fell, that same cabin stood there in the darkness like a silent predator, waiting. Down below, the city lights flickered faintly, but up here there was nothing, just darkness. Even the wind felt dead. Not a single leaf moved on the trees. My wife and I stepped inside the cabin. When the door shut, it slammed with a heavy thud, the kind of sound that makes you feel like the place just locked you in. The cabin was brand new. The wooden walls still shined. The floor smelled like fresh-cut lumber. Huge glass windows looked out over the mountains. The living room, bedroom, and kitchen were all one big open space. A couch sat in front of the fireplace, and the bed was placed right next to the bathroom door. There was something about that bathroom door. I can't explain it, but just looking at it made my stomach tighten, like something was hiding behind it, waiting. My wife fell asleep almost instantly. She was a heavy sleeper, dead to the world. But me, I couldn't relax. My heart was racing for no reason at all. The first part of the night passed quietly. Then it happened. Footsteps. Clear as day, footsteps on the wooden floor. I held my breath. The sound wasn't coming from the roof. It wasn't outside. It was inside the cabin. Someone was walking around in there. One step. Then another. Then another. These weren't animal noises. Nothing frantic. Nothing random. Whoever or whatever it was walked slow and steady. Calm, confident, like it owned the place. The footsteps started in the kitchen, moved past the couch, then stopped right next to the bed. My whole body locked up. I couldn't move. I just stared into the darkness. Then the steps turned around, heading toward the porch. They stopped near the door. And then silence. I tried to convince myself it was nothing. Maybe the wind, maybe sound echoing through the mountains, but deep down I knew that was bullshit. A little while later, flushing. The toilet flushed by itself. I shot upright in bed. I could see the bathroom door in the dark. The bathroom light turned on. I thought my wife had gotten up. Then, right in front of my eyes, I heard the click, and the light switch turned itself off. I looked over at my wife. She was still asleep, right next to me. That's when I realized we weren't alone in that cabin. The next night was worse. The footsteps didn't just happen once anymore. They came over and over, sometimes in the middle of the night, sometimes just before morning, sometimes slow, sometimes fast. Sometimes it felt like someone was standing right beside the bed, just watching. Every now and then, the bed would shift slightly, like something brushed against it while passing by. Out of the corner of my eye, I kept getting that feeling that someone was staring straight at me. The third night, that was the night that burned itself into my memory. That night I intentionally shut off the TV and the lights. I wanted answers. I wanted whatever it was to show itself. And then, I saw it. It wasn't a shadow. It wasn't a glow. It was a man. A real-looking man, bare chest, blue jeans, average height, average build. He looked solid, like a living person who'd gotten up in the middle of the night. He moved slowly. His footsteps made no sound, but I could feel the weight of him in the room. I couldn't see his face clearly, but I knew one thing for sure. He was looking right at me. My chest tightened. I couldn't breathe. My heart felt like it was about to explode out of my ribs. I closed my eyes, then opened them again. He was gone. After that night, I was terrified of the dark. From then on, I slept with the TV and the lights on all night. Whenever the room stayed lit, whatever that thing was seemed to disappear. The next day, my wife asked, "Why do you sleep with the TV on?" I lied. "There are animals outside. The noise keeps them away." The truth was, I was using the light to keep him away. 4 nights later, we left. As soon as we got home, I started digging for answers. And that's when I found out. I wasn't the only one. Another woman. Another cabin. Same resort. She heard the footsteps too. She saw the bathroom light turn on by itself. She saw a man walking through the cabin in the dark. The cabins were new. But the land was old. Maybe it was a spirit that didn't want people on its land. Or maybe it was something that only wakes up at night. Even now, I still think about it. If you ever stay alone in a cabin up in the mountains of Pigeon Forge, if you hear footsteps when no one's there, if your gut tells you that you're not alone, believe it. Your instincts aren't lying. It was one of those freezing February nights when the woods around Phantom Ranch looked completely dead, but I knew better. They weren't dead, not even close. They were alive. So alive that every breath you took, every step you made, every little heartbeat, it felt like it knew. Watching, judging, waiting. We were at church winter camp, my second year. Kids laughing, joking, messing around. But the second we got into the mountains, the vibe flipped. The cold wasn't just skin deep, it crawled straight into your bones. And not in a playful, brisk way. It was the kind of cold that makes your teeth chatter involuntarily, your chest tighten, your stomach knot up. From a distance, the camp looked normal. Old wooden cabins, snow-covered paths, thick, dark woods stretching in every direction. But as soon as the van came to a stop and we stepped out, something about it didn't feel right. The air felt heavy, like it was waiting for us. Our first cabin, heater dead. The inside was so cold that each exhale looked like smoke. The leaders decided we'd have to move. That's when they gave us another cabin, right on the edge of the woods. And I mean right at the edge. Tree branches were brushing against the windows, swaying like fingers scratching as if someone or something was trying to reach in. When I first laid eyes on that cabin, a chill ran down my spine. Not fear, not yet, more like recognition. Like I had walked into a place that knew I was coming and had been waiting. The cabin was old, dark, weathered wood. The door was shut, but I swear I felt eyes on me from the inside. Phantom Ranch, creepy name, right? I thought that at first. But by the time night fell, I realized it wasn't a joke. It wasn't even superstition. That name meant something. Sun had gone down, shadows stretching long and thin. We were walking to night chapel. The woods were silent. Not a breeze, not a leaf moving, just our boots crunching against the snow. But that silence, it felt wrong, too perfect, like it had been waiting for us. Then my friend stopped, her eyes glued to the ground. Footprints, human footprints, deep, straight, deliberate, leading right into the woods, not messy, not slipping, not playful, straight into the dark. Nobody spoke. We didn't need to, we all saw them. Later, when we came back, she checked again. Gone, snow untouched, like nobody had been there at all. Around 1 in the morning, things got intense. Cabin lights dim, wooden walls groaning with cold. I lay in my bunk, staring at the ceiling, trying to calm myself, but my gut told me someone or something was there. Near the window, I felt it, didn't see it, just felt it. Watching, my body stiffened, my breathing slowed, then a bang on the wall once. Then again, not random, deliberate, intentional. I tried to convince myself it was the boys, but their cabin was way up the hill. Impossible, not in this weather. And then, the door. It opened and slammed shut. That sound shredded my nerves. I shot upright, staring at the door. Nothing, nobody, but I knew it wasn't imagination. That presence, it was real. Not human, not fully, just there, watching. The rest of the night was hell. Every time I closed my eyes, it felt like it was leaning closer. The air inside thick, suffocating, moving but silent, omnipresent, everywhere and nowhere at once. By dawn, I could barely move. My friend asked, "You hear anything last night?" I nodded. She went pale, said she'd seen the footprints again outside, then gone and no snow. Next night, same thing. Night after that, same thing. Windows rattling, shadows moving, the door creaking open when no one was there. Always watching, waiting, patient. It wasn't haunted, it was occupied. Someone or something had claimed it. Next year, the boys got that cabin. We asked them if they heard anything. They said yes. Windows, walls, door, shadows moving, all night long. They said it felt like something was always there, just silently watching. That's when I got it. The Phantom Ranch cabin wasn't haunted in the usual sense. It was alive, and anyone who stayed there left a piece of themselves behind. I never went back, never will. Some places don't just let you leave. They take a part of you, a piece of your soul. Phantom Ranch is still out there, waiting for the next person who thinks it's just a normal camp. And when you step too close, breathe too loud, or feel too much, it sees you. Every step, every heartbeat, watching, waiting. Sometimes I wonder, maybe it's still there. The cabin, the woods, watching the paths leading up to it, waiting for someone else to notice the footprints in the snow, for someone else to feel that chill in their bones. And maybe, if you stay too long, you don't just leave with memories. You leave with a piece of yourself, trapped there forever. Phantom Ranch still alive, still waiting. Masai Mara, Kenya. That part of Africa where the jungle isn't just on the ground, it seeps into your mind. We were staying in a remote, standalone cabin. This cabin wasn't part of any settlement. No lights nearby, no sounds, no help. My cabin was about 1 kilometer away from the central area, and at night, that distance felt like being cut off from the whole world. At first glance, the cabin didn't look like a guest of the jungle. It looked trapped. The wooden walls were old, showing clear marks of time. From the ceiling came soft, creaking sounds like someone was walking upstairs. Behind the cabin ran a deep, slow-moving river. Its water looked black at night. We were strictly warned not to even try going down the balcony, because the river was home to crocodiles. But at night, the slightest ripple in the water made your heart race. Stepping inside the cabin, you could feel a heavy, oppressive air, like the room itself was breathing. But the most unsettling thing was the deer head mounted on the wall. Its body was gone, just the head. The dried-out hide and eyes, they glowed strangely in low light. It felt like it wasn't just decoration. It was part of some old, unfinished story. That night, my parents went to a cultural show happening somewhere deep in the jungle. I stayed alone in the cabin. At first, being alone in the middle of the jungle felt okay. But as the night grew darker, the cabin's silence settled like a weight on my chest. I must have dozed off reading my book. I don't remember falling asleep. Then, suddenly my eyes snapped open. No sound. No dream. Just this sharp, intense feeling, like someone had woken me. My body went cold. The cabin was pitch dark. My parents hadn't returned yet. I was just sitting upright in bed when my eyes fell on the wall. The deer's eyes, they were moving. It wasn't a flicker of light. It was a clear, deliberate motion. My throat went dry. My breathing stopped. I thought even if I screamed, the sound wouldn't escape. I shut my eyes immediately and lay still. My heart was pounding so hard, I swear the wooden walls could hear it. After a few moments, when I dared to open my eyes again, everything looked normal. The deer was lifeless, its eyes still. I told myself it was just exhaustion and sleep messing with me. But then I noticed the curtains moving. Slowly, like someone was touching them from inside. The windows were closed. The door was shut. Still, the air was moving. The cold, it sank into my skin, into my bones. I felt like something was standing right next to me, watching. I started praying. The words barely came out. My hands were shaking. I clutched my own pendant and closed my eyes tight. Time passed, or maybe it just stopped. Then suddenly, everything went back to normal. When my parents returned, I stayed quiet. The cabin seemed normal again, but my gut told me the night's game wasn't over. The next day passed on the safari. Sun, animals, sounds, it all seemed normal. But as soon as evening came and we headed back to the cabin, my chest tightened again. We opened the door, and we all froze. Our luggage was scattered, bags open, clothes on the floor, stuff placed in spots we hadn't put them. This wasn't random. It was like the cabin itself had moved things. The cabin staff flat out denied anyone had entered. That night we tried to sleep early, but the jungle didn't let us. Knocking on the door. Hard. So hard the wooden door shook. We opened it. Nobody there. This went on over and over. Every time the same silence. Every time the same empty darkness. Around 2 a.m. I heard knocking again. This time it was right up close, as if someone was standing on the other side of the door. My body went numb. I woke my parents. When we opened the door together, no one. Just a dark shadow in the bushes, moving for a split second, then melting into the jungle. The next day, we were leaving. Before we left, the guide pulled me aside. His voice was shaky. He said, "There's something famous about this cabin. About 50 years ago, a 9-10-year-old kid died right here. People say his spirit is still here." He spoke quietly. The door knocking at night. The scattered things. The cold. All of this is his mark. I had stayed in that cabin. Number 154. After that day, I understood. The jungle isn't just home to animals. Some places carry the weight of memories. And some spirits never leave their final resting place. October 1992. That evening was slowly turning into night, Isle of Bute, Scotland. A place where the moment you arrive, you feel like you're not just standing on land anymore. You've stepped into something else entirely. The sea below was completely still, like it was holding onto some old secret. The air was light, not cold, but heavy with a strange kind of sadness. We entered a private country estate. This wasn't some regular holiday spot. No nearby town, no houses, no lights, just a massive sloping stretch of land where 6 cabins were spread far apart from each other. Every cabin stood alone, like each one was hiding its own story. Inside the estate, there was only a narrow lane leading up the hill. After that, a long avenue began, old, thick trees lining both sides. The trees stood so close together that in the darkness they looked like one solid shadow. This same avenue led to a huge mansion owned by the landowners, but at that time it looked completely silent and lifeless. My boyfriend and I were in the car, both of us dead quiet. We weren't tired. We weren't upset. The silence of that place had just straight up taken our ability to talk. It was the kind of silence that rings in your ears. The car moved slowly between the trees. Every now and then, through the trunks, we'd catch a faint glimpse of the sea, then it would disappear again, like something peeking out and instantly hiding. Then suddenly, my eyes locked onto the utility cabin. It sat near the entrance of the estate, small, plain, only open during the day. Outside it stood an old phone booth, a leftover from the days before cell phones were everywhere. And outside that cabin, there was a woman standing there. My breath caught for a second. She was completely alone, wearing a long, pale gray dress. The dress looked drained of color, like the shade had vanished years ago. Her body looked unnaturally light, like it wasn't fully connected to the ground. Her hair hung loose, and the weird part was, there was wind, but her hair didn't move at all. My first thoughts were totally normal. Probably another guest. Maybe she's using the phone. But the closer the car got, the more my thinking changed. She was crying. Her head was slightly lowered, but her eyes were raised. Her eyes weren't red, just empty, dead-looking. Dark circles surrounded them. Her face was so pale it felt like there wasn't a single drop of blood left in her body. And then she looked straight at me, right into my eyes. There was no scream in that look, just a quiet pain that hit you right in the chest. I couldn't look away even if I wanted to. I was staring at her, and she was staring at me. The car kept moving forward. With every second she became clearer. This wasn't a shadow. This wasn't some trick of the dark. She was real, so real that I could feel her pain. My head filled with questions. Why is she alone here? At this time? In this place? Then we turned toward the field. And in that exact moment, she was gone. No movement. No running. No turning away. Just empty space. It felt like someone had ripped a photograph out of reality. That's when my boyfriend said, "The woman who was standing there, where did she go?" A cold wave ran through my body. He saw her too. This wasn't my imagination. We stopped the car immediately and stepped out. The darkness had deepened. The utility cabin door was shut, locked. The phone booth was empty. We looked around, just open land and distant cabins. The nearest cabin was at least 50 meters away. There was no way a woman could have gotten there that fast, and even if she had, there would have been some sign. But there was nothing. Just silence, and the terrifying feeling that we weren't alone. That night we went into our cabin, but it felt like the place didn't want us there. The darkness felt stuck to the windows, like something outside was trying to look in. It felt like someone was standing out there, right where the utility cabin was. Every second, my heart was pounding. Every second, it felt like the door might open. Or maybe that gray dress would step inside. The next morning, we talked to the gamekeeper. There was no shock on his face. He looked at us and calmly said, "You saw the gray lady." He told us people had been seeing her for years, always in a gray dress, always crying, always near that avenue. The story was that a young woman who was supposed to get married was abandoned by her lover. That night she had no one, no hope. Just those trees and that road. She hanged herself from one of the trees along that avenue. And since then, she never left. She waits there, stands on the road, watches people like she's asking if they've lost someone too. And when someone looks at her closely enough, she disappears in silence, just like she did that night, right in front of us. It was the time just before morning. That time when the darkness doesn't fully leave and the light is scared to come in. I was only 5 years old. Right in the middle of Arcadia National Park, Maine, close to the ocean, there was an old cabin. This wasn't some normal place. The cabin sat right on the edge of a rocky cliff, one wrong step and straight down into the silent sea. All I remember is being told again and again, "Don't go near the edge." Tall pine trees stood all around the cabin, so thick that even during the day, the light looked wounded. The walls were thin and old, like they were only standing there to block the wind. That night, my mom and I were sleeping in the same room. I suddenly woke up. Outside, there was fog so thick it felt like the whole world had been wrapped in a wet blanket. There was a small hole in the wall. I was peeking outside through it. Everything looked unclear, the trees, the sky, like it all belonged to some other world. My mom was in a deep sleep. Suddenly, the floor near the bedroom door felt weight. I turned around. Someone was standing there. I wasn't scared. Even today, that's the part that scares me the most, that I wasn't scared. It was a man, but not like a normal man. He had an old three-cornered hat on his head, knee-length shorts, and a long coat that looked like it came from a time before mine. His clothes looked like they had stepped straight out of an old picture and into my room. He was just staring at me. There was confusion in his eyes, shock, like he didn't even know why he was standing there. I sat up in bed. We silently stared at each other. Then he spoke. His voice was strange. It was English, but not the English people speak today. The words were old, the accent heavy, like it was soaked in dirt and history. He asked me, "What time is it right now?" I remember thinking that question was really weird, like time had stopped for him. Then he asked me about someone else. I don't remember the name, but there was panic in his voice, like he'd been looking for someone for a very long time. I said, "I don't know." Then I asked him for a glass of water. Now when I think about it, my soul shakes. A 5-year-old kid asking a stranger for water and not feeling scared at all. He kept looking at me. There was a silence on his face that didn't make sense, like he was wondering what I was and what this place even was. For a few moments, we both stayed completely quiet. Then he turned around, and without saying anything, he walked out of the room. I got out of bed. I went into the hallway. I was sure he'd be there, maybe coming back with that glass of water. But there was no one there. The cabin was completely silent, like no one had ever come at all. Just then my mom woke up. She asked me, "Why are you out of bed?" I said, "I was talking to that man." She asked, "Who, your uncle?" I said, "No, that man." She thought I was dreaming and put me back to sleep. But I wasn't dreaming. That memory stayed with me for years. When I got older, when I studied history, that's when I understood. That truck on a red hat. That's what the Minutemen wore during the American Revolution. Soldiers who were called to fight at a moment's notice, who left their homes and never came back. Maybe that man was still stuck in time. Maybe he was still looking for someone. And maybe that cabin wasn't just a place to stay. Maybe that place was made for people who never realized that the war had already ended for them.